Hi, hello everybody. This is Gregory once again, and welcome to my talk show, Touching Hearts and Transforming Lives. I'm really excited to be with you guys today because I feel and I believe that I've got something quite significant to share with you all through what I have discovered and learned, in the last couple of weeks. And I want to talk about, the outcome of our lives and where does it stem from? The belief. What do we believe about ourselves? Like if you look at yourself, if I look at my life and if you look at your life, and if you see what has been the outcome of your life, whether it is destructive or whether it is constructive, whatever the outcome of your life, it totally depends on what have you believed about yourself. The foundation is what you believe about yourself, which has produced the outcome of your life. So, how do belief? Now, when I say belief, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about God. I'm basically talking about what is it that you believe about yourself that has produced the outcome of your life. Okay, so that's the context. But when you look at your life, when you say, okay, this is my outcome, this is what I have produced, so it has got a direct link to what have I believed about myself. But where does what I believe about myself come from? Where do I get my identity as a person? And how do I get my identity as a person? I've been thinking about this a lot in my life when I look at the outcome of. So let's say, for example, some of you will be husbands. So when you look at yourself as a husband and you see that as a husband, this has been the outcome of my life as a husband, that outcome has got to do with what you have believed about yourself as a husband. Similarly, as a wife, if the outcome of your life has been constructive or whether it has been destructive, that is the direct result of what is it that you have believed about yourself as a wife. Let's say if you're a divorcee, if you're a man who is divorced, the outcome of how you think, whether it is constructive thinking or whether it is destructive thinking, has got to find its basis in what is it that I have believed about myself. Same thing as a wife. Is that whatever the outcome of your life today is as a wife, as a divorcee, if you look back and say, it will all be linked to what is it that I have believed about myself as a wife. And what I believe, like I said earlier, the image that I have about myself or the belief system that I have developed of myself often stems from experiences of life. So let me explain what I mean by that. We all as human beings, right from the time we are babies and we are born, we go through various experiences of life, don't we? Whenever we go through various experiences of our lives, through the five senses that we have, what we see, how we see, what we hear, and what we feel, what we smell, and what we taste. These are the basic five senses through which we give meaning to the experiences of our lives. So what happens is when we go through various experiences of our life, we give meaning to those experiences. So for example, if a child has been born in a very unpleasant marriage environment, let's say a child is born there, and the child would grow up to seeing his parents constantly fighting, debating or violence, and he grows up with what he's seeing with his five senses. And as soon as he sees what he sees through those with his five senses, he experiences those things and he gives a meaning to that, whether we like it or not. That's how our brain functions. Our brain experiences things through our five senses. We give those experiences meaning. If those meanings are constructive, we become a positive person. If we give meaning which are destructive, we become a negative person. So when that child grows up with seeing fights and arguments and debates and constantly in his life, he starts giving meaning to marriage. He starts marriage. I hate marriage. He grows up with that feeling is that marriage is not good. Marriage does not work. Marriage is bad. In marriage you have fights. Marriages don't work. So that is the image, that is the identity he starts developing as he grows up in his life. And when he grows up, he doesn't want to get married, or she doesn't want to get married, or she's angry at marriage, because that is the meaning she has given to her experiences. And that meaning becomes an identity of what she believes about marriage, or what he believes about marriage. So when you grow up, what is the outcome when you think about marriage? You are immediately kind of, you're disturbed, you don't like to talk about it, you feel uncomfortable, and you feel exhausted, and you feel suffocated. Why? Because you have given a meaning to a marriage which is very destructive, and so you don't want to get married, or you're not interested in marriage. Or even for by chance, even if you would get married, you will find that you are struggling in that marriage. All that happens, we give ourselves that identity. We give ourselves, that's how we define ourselves. I'm just talking about an example of marriage. You can talk about many other things. You could, like for example, a child. When a child grows up in a family and where there are many siblings, and if his parents always keep telling him, you're like that, you don't listen, you're useless, why were you born, and you're good for nothing, you don't understand, I have to tell you 10 times, why can't you be with your brother, or why can't you be like your sister? And when that child starts thinking or starts hearing all these words through his 5 senses, he starts giving meaning to his life. And he grows up saying, I'm useless, I'm good for nothing, I'm a failure, I'm not going to succeed, and this is how my life is going to be, and this is how I will be. So he starts giving meaning, which becomes very destructive, and then the outcome of his life is destructive. And all that happens, it's because the identity that we give ourselves through the experiences that we go through. That's how science works. That's how the brain works. The brain carries image of the various experiences, the meaning of the experiences that we give ourselves, and we define ourselves according to those experiences, and then we produce those results. I'll give you my example. As I told you earlier, as I shared earlier, I grew up in a very average middle class family. I never had a great relationship with my parents, especially my father. My father died at a very early age of 35. I was just 12 years old when my father died. And as I grew up in my life, I had the image of a man. I had this image that a man is weak. He needs help. He needs support. He needs people to understand him. He needs people to identify with him. Because, because I had the image of my father. I used to always think, oh, my father, he was a weak man. I wish he had friends. I wish people would have understood him much better. Maybe he would have not died so early. Maybe he needed help. So that is the image that I had about a man as I grew up in my life. Then I got married, and at the age of 26, 27, I got married and I had a kid. And one day I just began to realize, when I was thinking, I think I was reading a book, or I had gone for a meeting, I'm not sure. But it suddenly dawned upon me is, Greg, what is the image that you have of a man? And the image that I had of a man was a very distorted image. I had image of a man, poor guy, he needs help. He needs his wife to support him. He needs people to understand him. He needs people to help him. And if people are not helping him, they are bad. They are not really understanding him. That's the image I grew up on. And suddenly it dawned upon me, that is not the image that I should be having about a man. That is not. I gave meaning to my experiences of what I seen in my father. And that made me a weak man. So I immediately decided that day that, listen, this is not the image of a man that should be. A man is supposed to be somebody who is responsible for his life. He has to be accountable. He has to love his wife. He has to be a good father. He has to love his children. He takes responsibilities of his life. And that day I said, I am abandoning the meaning that I had about manhood, which came from my father. And most of the time, boys get their image of manhood through their father. And trust me, if you have not had a healthy relationship with your father as a man who is responsible, you will end up you will end up giving meaning to what your experiences will be, and that will be your identity. And you'll grow up and you'll find the outcome of your life seems to be looking very destructive. And that's what happened to me. That day at the age of 27, I just decided, I said, no, that is not the image of a man. And I said to myself, I am going to believe in a different man that I am going to be. I am not going to be like my father. I am going to be a man who is going to take responsibility for my life. I will be responsible, and I will be responsible to change my life. Whether I am a husband, whether I am a father, whether I am an employee, whether I am a friend, whether I am a brother, or in whatever sphere of life. As a man, I am going to be responsible for my life, and I am going to be changing my life. That was 27 years old back. And I tell you, thank God that that day I got this, you could call it a revelation of what man is. I abandoned the image that I had about what man is, and I took on the new image of a man, what a man should be. And I started believing in myself that this is the man I am going to be. And thank God for that, because after that, I went through a lot of hell in my life. I went through a lot of problems. I went through a lot of challenges in my life. And I tell you, if I had not made that decision, if I had not reframed my belief system about what man is, I perhaps would have ended like my father. I mean, I loved my father. He's no more, but I did love him. But I had to come to the acknowledgement to say that this is not what a man should be. And that day I changed. And today I have got one of the most incredible and amazing relationship with both my children. I've got a daughter who's 29 and I've got a son who's 25. And through all the crap that I went through in my life, in my marriage and in various things in my life, I have been able to believe in myself that this is what I believe about what man is. And I developed the outcome of being a good father. So, the outcome of our life, whether it is constructive or whether it is destructive, stems from the root of what is it that you believe about yourself. Sometimes, you might be a woman, you might be a wife in your family, and you might be feeling, as a wife, I don't know, I am like that. I can't either love my husband, or I cannot be in an intimate relationship with my husband. I struggle, I feel this. These are all destructive mindsets, and it stems from what is it that you believe about yourself. It could be as a worker, as an employee. You must be struggling in your job, in your situation, and you don't feel good about how you feel about yourself. And you must be feeling that I always fail, I'm not successful, I work hard. And sometimes I tell you, we feel like we are cautious of failure rather than being confident of success. Many times in life it happens. That's also, being cautious of failure is a destructive mindset, but being confident of success is a constructive mindset. So the outcome, so I want to leave you with this thought. Look at the outcome of your life. What has the outcome of your life produced? What is the state of your being? Are you thinking constructive or are you thinking destructive? And very often, whether it is constructive or whether it is destructive, it stems from the undercurrent fact of what is it that you believe about yourself. And what you believe about yourself stems from what are the experiences that you have gone in life and what is the meaning that you have given those experiences. If you have gone through a lot of negative things in life, you will give yourself a destructive meaning. If you have gone through a lot of positive things in life, you will give yourself a constructive meaning, and your outcome will be different. So guys, think about it. I just felt, this is something that I was pondering on, and I thought I would share with you all. So, and there's a way, I tell you, there is a way of how you can change your outcome. There's a way how you can change what you believe about yourself. There's a process, there's a system. Everything works on a system, and there is a system in how you can change your outcomes which are destructive to making outcomes which are constructive. You can change your belief system about who you believe you are, you can reframe and give new meaning to your experiences in life, and that will help you to become a person who is more positive, or who is more constructive in the way you're thinking and you're living, and therefore producing constructive outcome experiences in life. So I hope this chat was helpful to you, and I will be seeing you again soon. Once again, I want to say, I'm also on YouTube in the name of Gregory George Ministries. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you really like, and if what I've said has really touched your heart. Do subscribe. Thank you, and see you soon again. Bye guys. Be safe.